Excellent. Welcome back to the Think2Thrive podcast. As always, my name is Adrian. Today, I'm delighted to have with me Mr. Brian Proctor, all the way from Washington State over in the US. Obviously, with a name like Proctor, anybody who's listening to this and has heard me talk before would put two and two together. And Brian is obviously the son of the late, great Bob Proctor. Brian is also in his own right, he's the author of My Father Knew the Secret, Growing Up with Bob Proctor, and the new release of 12 Easy Steps to Change Your Life. Stop waiting for that big thing. Brian, you're very, very welcome to the Think2Thrive podcast. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks, Adrian. It's really good to be here with you today.
Awesome. Thank you. Perhaps for those who are listening who may not be as familiar with you and your dad as I am, maybe you could give a quick introduction to yourself.
Sure. Yeah. Well, for anybody that knows who Bob Proctor was, he was given the book Think and Grow Rich in October of 1961. And Adrian, I was born in December of 1961. So I was pretty much there for the entire ride. And if you don't know who he is, I will tell you in no uncertain terms, my father was one of the founders of the personal development industry. He really was. He was in the business long before it was a big thing. And he really made it, I guess, in a much bigger way when the movie The Secret came out. He was featured in that movie, and that really elevated his status in this world. Certainly the internet today makes a big difference, helps get the message out, but he was really one of the founders of the personal development industry. And I had the fortune of working with him for probably a little over 30 years. So I really got the behind the scenes. I came from a real estate industry, real estate background, and started to work with my father in my 30s, I guess. And really, I did all the marketing end of things, but we had just a great relationship. The two of us, we really got along well. We each contributed to each other. It was just a fun dynamic. And I really got to witness the behind the scenes, everything that takes place in this personal development industry, what a tough slug it actually is, how it's hard to get your name out there. And I watched my father in such an incredible way deliver so much value to the world. And he passed about 3.5 years ago, as you know, Adrian, and it's been my mission ever since, is really to keep his message alive. Writing books, doing online courses and classes, and keeping the lessons that he taught that really had value, that helped change lives. Keep it out there, keep his message going. And it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, I bet. I know personally, myself, I came across your dad. It wouldn't have been probably too long after The Secret, and sort of really resonated with the message that he was trying to get across, and his way of doing it.
Yes.
We always. There's a lot of and I don't always use the word gurus, but there's a lot of people out there who want to teach you something, and I draw the comparison from your dad to Tony Robbins, for example. And Tony, God bless him, he's fantastic. I love his energy. I couldn't keep up with him. Whereas I love the way that your dad tried to simplify everything, and the KISS principle, the keep it simple principle is for me the way to get the message across. And so you can get more people, if you know what I mean. If you don't complicate it, you can get as many people as you possibly can.
Yeah, very much. Well, it's interesting. My father was always, he liked to be called a teacher. He didn't want to be called a motivational speaker or any of that kind of stuff. He really felt that his message was more than motivation. He was teaching people a better way to live, a better way to show up in the world. And he was definitely a little unique in that department.
Yeah, man. I didn't know, actually, Brian, you're a December baby also.
I am. Are you from December as well?
I'm a December baby also, yeah.
Hey, good for you.
So a fellow Sagittarian, which is good. I share a birthday, December 12th, with Frank Sinatra.
Oh, there you go. I like that.
A different year, okay? Yeah. But yeah, the same day. So you were born in 1961. Where were you guys living at that time? Was it in Toronto
It was in
or what?
Toronto. Yeah, I was born in Toronto, mostly raised there. We moved around a fair bit. We lived in London, England for a time. We lived in Chicago, in the U.S. for a time, but we always kept going back to Toronto. That was home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was unusual, because I remember hearing Bob talk about, the cleaning business, and it was all in the US and Canada and then London, England.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
it's a really, really strange sort of a jump. What age were you when you did that?
So when we moved to London, I would have probably been 5, maybe 6 years old.
Okay.
So I have very fond memories of England. I was old enough to remember. You might get a chuckle out of this, but my best friend over there was Tom Jones's son, Mark.
No way.
Yeah, we lived right across the street from Tom Jones. So I got to know, well, Mark was my best friend at that. I was just a young boy, obviously, but I have many memories of being in their house and seeing Tom Jones playing records and singing and doing things. And this was in the 1960s when he was really a big deal.
He was
So
huge
it's,
back then. Yeah, he was like almost like Elvis at that stage.
yeah, he really was, and he was a neat guy, really neat guy, or he still is. But
Are you still in contact or in touch by any chance? No.
it's really interesting. I had a conversation with Mark. Oh gosh, it's probably 4 years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago. There was somebody at one of our seminars that heard this story and is a friend of Mark's and said, "Oh my God, Mark remembers this. You should give him a call." And he gave me his number, and so we connected, and it was fun just talking with him again. It had been so long. I mean, I was just a young kid. You just remember the silly things at that age, but it was kind of fun to reconnect with him. But that's the only contact I've really had since.
That's good. But there's a lifetime in between. Yeah, really.
Totally. Yeah.
And do you ever travel back to the UK at all?
I have been back to the UK several times, just in the most recent, in the last few years. I've been in London, been in Belfast, in Dublin, and it's been a great adventure. I've just been over there speaking, so it's been a lot of fun.
Having I suppose, having watched Bob for years, being on stage, you may have picked up a thing or two about how to engage an audience.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, Adrian. I certainly have. I never thought I was going to be a speaker or an author or any of these things. I always thought that was my father's deal. And since his passing, it's just kind of happened in a real natural, organic way. And I certainly feel my father quite often. When I'm at the stage and I'm speaking, I can feel him almost flowing through me. The book was a great experience. I started writing the book. My father knew the secret when he was alive, and it was a fun project. The two of us would chat about it. He knew I was writing it. I think he liked the idea. We had many conversations around some of the ideas of what I was writing about, some of the stories. And I was maybe halfway through writing that when he passed away. And it took me a few months before I could even start again. And when I did, you've got the book, you'll know that first chapter is the first thing I wrote after he passed. And that was the hardest thing I think I've ever had to write. But I feel him all the time. And I think he never taught me how to speak or to be an author or do any of these things. But I think watching him all of my life, I just picked it up naturally. Now, I'll never speak like my father. I'll never have the same, presence that my father has. But if I tried to act like him, I'd be a fake. It would not be authentic. And that's something Dad always said. You've got to be who you are. And I've had a real strong message that I need to stay authentic and speak from my heart, not my head. And Dad always shared that with me. He said, we speak from the heart, it'll always be well received. So that's kind of how I work. But I definitely feel him all the time.
Yeah, well, that's pretty cool to have a mentor like that, or to have somebody like that in your corner is a huge bonus, let's say.
Yeah.
The book you mentioned, the book My Father Knew the Secret, and I listened to the clip earlier on today where you said how that name came to you,
Yes.
or where you came up with the name in the middle of the night, and it's strange because for me, when I think about writing a book, I go, okay, well, what am I going to call it first? Yeah.
Yes.
And then I'll decide what goes into it, etc. So, well, had you any idea beforehand as to what you were going to
No.
call it? Or?
Well, that's an interesting thing, Adrian. I knew what I was going to write. My wife and I were talking about it, and I said to her, I said, I'm going to write a book. My father always said, "There's a book in everybody," and I said to her, I said, I want to write a book, and I said, but I'm not quite sure what I'm going to talk about yet. And she looked at me like almost like I had two heads, and she says, "Brian, you're at thousands of seminars all the time. What's the one question you're asked every single time?" And that's, what's it like having Bob Proctor as a father? And I thought, wow, there you go. Maybe that's what I'll write about, what it's like having Bob Proctor as a father. And I'll share that experience. I'll share stories of what it was like, what I learned from him. I figure, there thousands, if not millions of people watched him online in live events and everything else. Well, he's going to teach his son the very best of what he's got. So I thought, there you go. I'm just going to teach all the things that Dad taught me, how he showed up, some of our stories. And so I started writing it without a clue what I was going to call the book. And I had several ideas, and I would bounce them off of Dad. Hey, what do you think? And none of them felt right to me. And he says, Brian, if they don't feel right, then just relax. And he kept saying to me, he said, Brian, take your time with this. And it'll come to you when it's supposed to come. Well, I figured I was going to have this book written and out when he was alive, and he would have gotten to actually experience it, which unfortunately did not happen. And when he passed away, I did not have a title to the book yet. Well, it was quite a while after he passed, but it was before I was finished the book. I was having a vivid dream of my father. It was like 3 a.m. I woke up and that title was in my head. And Adrian, when something's just right, that was it. I knew that was it. I literally got out of bed and wrote it down so I wouldn't forget, because that middle of the night fog sometimes. And I wrote it down. I thought, how perfect is that? Because he really did know the secret. And here's the interesting thing. That movie, The Secret, is what propelled him to such a large stage. He had worked for virtually 40 years grinding it out in the self-development industry. And he was 72 years old when The Secret came out, 72. Well, that's when he got on Larry King Live, The Ellen DeGeneres Show, Nightline, all these things that opened him up to a huge audience. And I thought, what a perfect way to weave that whole name, The Secret, into the title, because he really did know the secret. And just, when and it felt right. But that's how the title came to me. It was after a vivid dream of him right in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I listened to Bob once before saying about having a notebook and having that notebook beside your bed along with a pen, because for those moments when you wake up and you're inspired in the middle of the night. So it worked out for you for sure.
It
Brian.
definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, sort of the as I said before we came on, the whole concept of the Think2Thrive podcast is to help people to think differently in order to thrive, whatever that means to them. And I always think success is a very, very personal thing, and it's sort of can be something different for you, for me, etc. So it all depends on the individual. But the idea is to try and inspire people to think differently, or to think about what it is that they really want.
Right.
What you just said about your dad grinding it out for 40 years, let's say, until he got to his 70s, until he really sort of catapulted, is really an embodiment of I think the faith that he used to go on about, and that you talk about all the time. Is that you have this belief that it's going to happen, even though right up until maybe it happens, there's absolutely no sign whatsoever that it's going to happen, but you have the faith and you continue.
Adrian, it's such a valuable lesson because most people, and my father was such a great example. I think I learned from him more in how he acted than what he said. And, so often we let our current environment, we let our circumstance dictate the way we behave in this world and what we see. And if it's not happening, we're focused on what's not happening. My father was the opposite to that. It didn't matter what was going on with his current environment and circumstance. He had in his head the vision of where he wanted to be, what it was going to be. And he lived from that place. He used his imagination to feel what that would feel like, being wherever, wherever he was. And by doing that, that's how we change our current environment. That's how we change our circumstance, by focusing on what we do want. Too many people wish for what they'd like, but they're thinking about what's not working. What's going on in the world right now. They're being dragged down by that energy, and they're not taking control of their thoughts. And when we control our thoughts, we will alter our environment. Most people have it the other way around. They let their environment alter their thoughts. And today, my gosh, I think more than ever, we're in a 24-hour news cycle. We have social media that's bombarding us, and there's so much negativity, so much divisiveness. And I get people all the time, how do you get past this? Because it's so negative. It's making me angry. It's making me feel bad. And I say to them, I said, here's the deal. You have control over your thoughts. If you're letting that social media, if you're letting the news control your thoughts, that's a mistake. Sometimes it's good to turn that stuff off. There's certain things that we don't have control over, but we do have control over the way we think. And if we can start focusing on the positive things that are going on, the good things that are happening in our life, even when life might be crap at this exact moment, but we can look for something good that's happening. Dad was a master at this. And if you can find something good and focus on that, you will start to see more good around you. It's just such a important thing. I think our minds are like algorithms. The YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, all these things have these algorithms. And what you look at, they'll start feeding more of to you. So you want to be careful what you're looking at, because whatever you look at, you're going to get more of, and it will strengthen whatever that is that you watch. Our mind is the same thing. What are we focused on? What are we thinking about all the time? If we're thinking about what's not working, we're going to attract more of what's not working. But if we start thinking about what's good in our life, let's alter that algorithm of our head and start focusing on the good, and we will start attracting more good into our life. That's just the way it works.
That's a fantastic analogy for the 21st century, the algorithm, because you're 100% correct, Brian. When I get it on my own social media feed. If I'm looking at something, suddenly everything is about that. Or if I'm searching to buy something, suddenly all the ads are focusing towards that one thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you're dead right. I'm a firm believer, and it's a tagline that I use all the time, is understanding is the key to success.
Yes.
So if you understand how your mind works, and that's why I love, I absolutely love it. I almost got a tattoo of it at one stage, which is the stick man, because it's so simple, but yet it explains incredibly well for people how their mind works. And if you don't understand it, you can't change it, you can't fix it. You have to have a basic level of understanding, and I don't claim to have a huge understanding of it, but it's
well, I think the fact that you know the stuff, Adrian, you're way ahead of the crowd, and that's the key. That's the key with the stuff. My father never thought he knew it all. There's a lesson in that too. He never stopped studying. He never thought he knew it all. And man, it was incredible to watch. I can remember the last couple of days of his life. He still, he couldn't even read any longer, but he still wanted me to read to him good books. He was still studying, even when he knew he wasn't going to be here. That's the key. That there's something to that.
There's one particular part of your story. The first chapter in My Father Knew the Secret was when he was going home.
Yes.
And how he dealt with the two porters, let's say, who were dealing with him. I mean, that for me is phenomenal. I mean, that's really living the value of leaving everybody with the impression of increase. It's just,
yeah. I'll share that story a little bit, Adrian, if you like, because I think there's value in it. Dad was always teaching that we have to leave everybody with what he liked to call the impression of increase. And it's really simply this: what can you do to make everybody you're in contact with feel just a little bit better because they were in your presence that day? If you can do that, boy, oh boy, if you just recognize the good in somebody and let them know you recognize it, you'll alter their day. You'll make friends in a hurry. You'll develop better business relationships. So much good will happen. Well, that situation, we were in the hospital. I was with him at that time, and he knew he was not going to be here very long. It was literally days, and he was not going to die in the hospital. It was during COVID times. Only one person was allowed in the room, and he had all his grandchildren he wanted to say goodbye to. He had some close friends, and that wasn't going to be happening in the hospital. So he checked himself out, and when these two guys came in it was a private ambulance to bring him home, they were very matter of fact. You could tell this was their business. They just transport people. And my father was in terrible pain. He was not feeling good. But he never let that alter the way he showed up in the world, the way he treated people. That's a lesson in itself right there. I see so many people, especially when I was in the hospital, that were miserable, that were hurting, that were taking it out on the doctors and the nurses and anybody else. What a shame. Dad never did that. He did not let what was going on with him affect the way he would treat people. That was a powerful lesson. But these two guys showed up, and man, I'll never forget. It was such a pleasant experience because they showed up. They were very matter of fact, and they were just about to grab them and start moving them just part of the job. And my father, he just held up both of his hands. He said, whoa, 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 hold on a second, boys. And he looked at the one man, he looked him deep in the eyes, and he said, what's your name? And the fellow said, Muhammad. Dad says, Muhammad, that's a strong name. I really like that. That name has been around for a long time. Powerful people. And you could see Muhammad looked at him like, oh, that's, he was recognized. And then Dad looked at the next guy and he said, what's your name? And the fellow said, Tureg. And Dad said, Tureg, I've never heard that name before. I like that too. That's powerful and unique. And he just altered the vibration of these two guys just with those simple comments and the way he looked them in the eye. It was so powerful. Because of that, you could see their demeanor alter. They became softer. And I know for sure they put him on that gurney in a more gentle way. They were a little more caring. And, it just got the thought of that situation. They started to wheel him out of the room. And I'll never forget, in all the agony that he was in, he put his arms up in the air and he says, Muhammad, Tureg, take me home, boys. It was the most incredible experience, Adrian. And they wheeled him out. And as they were wheeling him out, there were nurses and doctors and people in the hallway, all there just to touch him and just say goodbye. They didn't know who Bob Proctor was when he first came in. He wasn't, known in those kind of circles. And the way he treated those people, I know he touched them in a really special way. And it was, man, I'm glad I was there to experience it. It was really something.
It was powerful, a huge life lesson that even when the chips are down, and you're at your worst, one of my favorite things is to always be at your best, regardless.
Right.
And I'll never forget. At one stage, I went and I put on a talk in a hotel not far away from here, and I had maybe 15 or 20 people had confirmed that they were going to come, and I was really happy. And in the end, 2 people turned up.
Yep.
Yeah. And it was soul destroying in one way, but in another way, it was really, really good to just do it regardless. To actually give the talk that I came there to give. Not only did not many people turn up, my co-host, the person who was supposed to co-present with me, didn't turn up.
Wow.
So,
well, you know what my father would have said to you? He would have said, "Congratulations, you had 2 people show up."
Yes, yeah.
That's the way he would have looked at it. Those kind of situations happened to him in the early days too, Adrian. And man, he still delivered his message as if the room was packed with 1,000 people. Yeah, that's good for you.
I can't remember if it was in the book. It's Not About the Money, or whether it was one of the other ones. He talked about hiring a big, enormous stadium, expecting like 1,000 people to turn up, and something similar, like nobody turned up, or one person or 2 people turned up. Yeah. I promised myself beforehand, Brian, because you said in the beginning of the book is that the question you get asked all the time is, what was life like growing up with Bob Proctor as your father? And I was like, I'm not going to ask that question.
Hey, but here we are.
But here we are. Here we are. So I'm sorry about that. But the one of the things it's a question I ask everybody that I talk to is who is the mentor for you as a child? Who, you know, there's always, especially when somebody goes into something entrepreneurial as they get older, has been somebody who was an inspiration for them when they were kids.
Yeah.
Obviously it was your dad. But let's dial back the clock a little bit, if we can, to the time period for you between, let's say, leaving secondary school and before you were in your 30s, beginning to work with Bob. And you said you were in real estate at that stage. How did that come about, and why did you leave real estate? Did you not love it, or what was the reason?
There's a few things to that story. That first off, let me clear the air on this one. What's it like to have Bob Proctor as a father? It was a joy. It was a pleasure. It was a gift that I was given. I'm very lucky that I got to be his son in this lifetime. He's a special man. And yes, we had a very special relationship. And if I was to name one mentor in my life who had the most influence on me, it will always be my father. We just we had a special connection. So it was great. So I worked with him actually in my late teens for a while. This is long before the internet. And so if you've ever seen the old Born Rich videos online, they're on YouTube everywhere, you'll see him working on a blackboard. Well, yes, yeah. I was like his roadie. I would be slugging that blackboard to whatever venue he was speaking at, setting the thing up and get everything set right on the stage. So I was really his roadie, slugging the boxes, selling books at the back of the room, whatever it took. And I was then in my early 20s, and it's like, I got to step out and do my own thing. I can't just be Bob Proctor's son as a roadie. I had to find my own way in the world first. And I was always interested in real estate. I thought I could sell real estate. I thought I'd be a good real estate salesperson. So I took the courses and I got into real estate, and I left the seminar company. I don't think my father was not happy with me at that time, but he supported me, and that was good. Because he really saw me in the seminar business. But I had to step out and prove to myself that I could make it on my own first. And I got into real estate, and I'll never forget a couple of things. The first is, Dad told me, he says, Brian, you need to act as if you were the best real estate agent in the entire city of Toronto. That's how you need to show up in this world. And he said, then make sure you get into a company or an office that has high producers, because you are, like Jim Rohn said, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time around. Similar kind of scenario. And that's what I did. My first month in the business, I earned over twice what I had ever earned in an entire year previously. It was incredible. And it just continued to go up. I was earning hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is back in the 1980s when I was a 20-something-year-old. It was a lot of money then. And it was incredible. But it was all because I was applying the principles that my father taught. So I was in real estate for about 12 years. I had a great career. It certainly had its ups and downs, but overall it was a great career. But I was getting frustrated with it. I was getting frustrated with having to work weekends or being on call all the time. And it, I enjoyed it, but it was losing its luster.
Yeah.
My father had constantly been trying to get me to come back in the business, to work in the marketing of his company. And I kept saying, no, Dad, I'm good. I'm doing the real estate. I'm really enjoying it. And he finally hit me at a point where it was like, now I think I'm ready. I've shown that I can do it on my own elsewhere. And so I said, yeah, I'll come back. And the interesting thing is I came back and I was starting to sell seminars, and I was not enjoying myself. And I'll never forget this conversation I had, Adrian. I sat down with Dad and I said, you know what? This isn't working for me. I'm not enjoying selling the seminars. And to my father's credit, he just said, then stop selling the seminars. He said, find another way to contribute. I thought, wow, that was a really great response. And so I found another way to contribute. And it turned into a beautiful thing, because I I started doing email list building and delivering day service stuff. This is before email list building was ever a thing, before quote of the day services were even out there. And I was able to build a back end system to his company that enabled us to explode when that time came. When The Secret came out, he was one of the only people in The Secret that was set up that could take on all the new people coming in. We were able to get their email addresses, stay in touch. Most of the others weren't, because it was before that type of marketing happened. So I was able to contribute in a different way that really helped explode our company as well. So it was a lot of fun.
That's the email marketing. Obviously, that would have been what, probably the early noughties or late 90s, early noughties or something like that.
I started it in 1999, 2000, right around then. So people had email addresses and stuff like that then, but there were no email list servers or any of that kind of stuff at that time. Today it's easy. There's all kinds of services out there that you can collect email addresses and send out, but there was not at 2000. There just was not. There was no quote of the day service then. So there was a lot of interesting things that I had to figure out and build along the way. And the interesting lesson out of all of that, Adrian, is that I know you've got people listening to this that are building their own business, that are doing things, that are going after something, and they don't know how they're going to get there. Mm-hmm. This is a lesson that my father always taught, and it's something that I really gained a firsthand experience over. You don't need to know all the steps that are required to get there. If you do, it's probably not a big enough dream. Yeah. And when I started building this out, I did not know all the steps, but I did what I could with what was in front of me. My next book, 12 Easy Steps to Change Your Life, I talk about doing the little things. Most people are waiting for that big thing to happen. I'll do this when I'm finished school, or when the kids are out of school, or I'll do this when things are better. They're waiting for that big thing to happen. If we take care of the little stuff, we just do the step that's in front of us, and we do that every day. We show up as the best version of us every day and do with what we can. In a year's time, we've done 365 little things. I promise that'll add up to something big. Well, when I started building this whole system, if I had known everything that I had to do to get there, I probably wouldn't have done it. And what a mistake that would have been. So that's where, if you're inspired, if anybody's listening to this or watching this, if they're inspired to do something big, don't think you have to map it all out. Step out and start taking the steps, and you'll learn along the way. Because if you know everything that's required, if it's a big deal, it might overwhelm you and you may never do it. But if you do the little things that are in front of you, my God, what you can build, what you can become in this world is something really spectacular.
Yeah. I love that because it's something that goes on in my mind all the time, and I keep thinking, I know I'm building a business, and I know that where I want to get it to. I have no idea how to get it there, Brian, to be honest with you. I really don't.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
I've written down the end goal of where it's going to be, but the steps between now and then, no idea. There's a brilliant what your father used to always teach about the type A, B, and C goals is something that I really sort of hone in on when I'm talking to people. And there's a wonderful singer, I think she's from California, who sang a song, and there's a line in it about if what you're aiming at is not big enough, it's probably not the right one, or something along those lines, which is sort of the epitome of that aiming big and trying to get to that big goal.
A worthy goal. Here's the big thing I learned from my father, is that a worthy goal, something that you don't know how you're going to get there, but man, you want to be there. It inspires you. That kind of goal will cause you to do things in a day that you would not normally do. Yeah. When you find that kind of a goal, man, that's when the magic's going to happen. I was at a retreat that a friend of mine and I we were hosting a business retreat for people, and we had I think there was 10 of us there, and we were talking. Well, this friend of mine, Tommy, he came up with the most incredible idea. We're all sitting around at dinner. A lot of people are thinking, well, what's my dream? What's my big goal? How do I figure it out? And I've got it right here on my desk. So Tommy, at dinner time, we're all sitting around the table. He gives us this money clip with $5 million in it. Now, it wasn't really 5 million. It's a fake 5 million, but here was the concept. It was really a neat idea. He said, if everything was taken care of, you had no more obligations, and you had $5 million just handed to you, and you had to do something with it today, what would you do? What would you do with that $5 million? That'll start to open your mind up to what would I do? What is possible? And the next day at dinner, he gave us another 5 million. He says, now you did what you did yesterday. What would you do today? What a great way to open yourself up to what would I really like in my life? Most people don't give enough thought to that. True. What would I really like? What do I want to do? What kind of business do I want to build? What kind of relationships do I want to have? Start to actually think about that rather than just trudging from day to day to day. Start dreaming, what would I like? And then start doing one little thing every day to get there. You don't need to know the path of how you're going to get there. But when you find that one thing you like, something that does inspire you, oh, I'd really like this in my life. Well, then start doing something about it. That's when the magic happens.
Yeah. You mentioned people don't give it enough thought. I love the quote, 2% of people think, 3% of people think they think, and 95% of people would rather die than think.
Yeah,
I've told that one to so many different people, and they all kind of look at me going, what? But it's true. The idea about trying to figure out what it is that you want. Was it Esther Hicks who talks used to talk an awful lot about people tell me all the time that they don't know what they want. He says, I don't believe it. People do know what they want. They just discredit it or throw it out before they even give it any thought, because they think, well, who am I to want to achieve those sort of things?
You know what? I will agree with that 100%. I think so many people, they have these desires, but unfortunately, they let their limiting beliefs, those little guys on their shoulders, say, who are you to think you can do that? Mm-hmm. Oh, or what's my neighbor going to think if I try to do this? And unfortunately, they let those limiting beliefs take over. They take control. And that's a shame. That's a shame.
So what would you say to somebody who has one of those limiting beliefs and they have a desire? Okay. I know I have Think and Grow Rich on the desk beside me. I read a little bit of it every day. Mm-hmm. And Napoleon Hill talks all the time about this burning desire. If somebody is trying to figure out, let's say, what is this burning desire? How do I figure out? I love the 5 million idea. I think that's really, really, really clever. Can I ask what was it that you said?
What was it I said? Oh, I was going to buy the properties around me because I want to build a place where I can have a retreat here and bring people here.
Oh, awesome.
I live in a beautiful place, incredible views. We have seals, whales, we have all kinds of stuff always right out front of us, eagles, everything. And I'd love to build a retreat where we don't have to go somewhere else to hold the retreat. We can do it right here at our home.
That'd be,
build some guest houses and a little center around here.
That'd be pretty.
That was my thing. That's my burning desire now.
So when's the first retreat?
I can't tell you yet. I don't know. I've got to convince a couple of people to sell their properties first.
Cool. So sorry. What I was going to say is how do you approach somebody who goes, well, I don't know what it is that I want, and how would you go about that?
So there's two things that are required. First off, whether it's that $5 million exercise, whether it's you're gifted a magic wand and you could have anything in your life, just by what would that be? Start to take some quiet time, start writing out a list of what would you really like in your life. Forget about whether you could do it or not. That's the key. Forget about whether you can or not. Would you like that? Yes or no? And it makes no difference what it is. It's what inspires you. What inspires me may not inspire somebody close to me or somebody next. It makes no difference. What inspires me? That's what I've got to pick. And what is that for you? Now, here's the key, is when you see that thing, this thing you want, that's when our limiting beliefs come up more than ever. And you have to recognize that when that's a limiting belief, just realize that's a limiting belief. That doesn't mean you can't get that. So what we have to do is we have to alter our limiting beliefs. We have to kick that to the curb. And how do you do that? Well, I think that the first thing is recognizing what that limiting belief is. Why do you feel you can't have that? Who says you can't have that? Is it your your spouse? Is it your parents? Is it your kids? Is it your neighbor? Or is it just you thinking you're not worthy? Start to think, what is that? Write down what that limiting belief is. And then on the other side of the paper, write down the opposite of that limiting belief and create an affirmation around the opposite of that limiting belief, because that's the power. That's what you need to convince your mind. One thing I learned from Dad, we can alter our thoughts with repetition. And if we keep repeating the positive side of things, what you are capable of, how you can do, and you keep repeating that, at first, it might not seem real. It might seem fake, but you keep doing it. Before long, all of a sudden it's like, there's maybe a possibility. You keep doing it, and before long it's, yes, I can do that. And it becomes a probability. It takes repetition. And that's the best way to do it. Don't expect that it's going to happen tomorrow. Be great if it did, but work on creating the belief that you are worthy, that you will start stepping out and doing what's required today without knowing the next step. And you start doing that, Adrian, your life is going to change. You know it will. And that's what it's all about. It's just about taking the tiny steps and the repetition of altering the way we see things, the way we perceive things. And that's how we change it.
Yeah. Well, Wayne Dyer said it really well, didn't he? When you change how you look at things, what you look at changes.
Exactly.
And it's I suppose I go back to the understanding piece that we don't get taught these sort of things in school. And we don't learn that we actually have the control over whatever it is that we want to do. We learn pretty much the exact opposite of that growing up.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where your dad's message and your message now is so important to get out there to as many people as possible, is that, you have the power. The power is within you. You have control over it. When you talk about thoughts, you can't control what you think, what the thoughts that come into you, but you can control which ones you pay attention to and which ones you don't pay attention to.
Exactly. I mean, let's face it, when we're little kids, man, we think we could do anything. We think we can fly, whatever that may be. And, as we kept growing and going to school, that started to shut down. People say, "Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that." And they started to build our limiting beliefs. And the unfortunate thing is we accepted that. We accepted it. And, if we can open that back up a little bit again and start dreaming again, start thinking, what would I like? My God, what a great world we're going to live in if people start going after what they really want, not settling for just what's there.
Yeah.
We can all live so much larger, so much better, so much happier if we start betting on ourselves, start to not settle on just what's okay, and start to live a bigger way. I think one of the biggest things, and this is what I learned from Dad, and I shared it earlier, the reason why he kept improving his life, he never stopped studying. You got to find good books. You mentioned Think and Grow Rich. It's great. My father studied that book for over 60 years. When I hold that book, God, I can feel him in it. He studied that book every day for 60 years. I mean, it's falling apart, that book. He knew that if he studied every day, even if it was the same thing, he would get better. And every time he read it, he'd see something different because he was at a different place. He never thought he knew it all. And he says, if anybody wants to change their life, start studying good material and study it every day. It will open your world. It'll open your viewpoint. It will alter your beliefs. Man, oh man, when that happens, Adrian, that's when the magic starts pouring.
Well, and that's exactly what I would love as many people as possible around the world to understand and hear that message. Tell me, I watched recently, Brian, the movie that was produced. Where's it gone again? The about your dad. The
Legacy, Bob Proctor Legacy.
Bob Proctor Legacy. Yeah. And I think that was it. I commend you guys. I think it was fantastic. And what I really loved about it is, do you know, in Instagram or in social media, we see the highlight reel. Yeah, we see the wins. We see the beautiful angles. We don't see the waking up in the morning, the hair all over the place and all that sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
what I found with that movie is that we got a little bit of a glimpse behind the scenes to the, I wouldn't say failures, but the learnings that happened throughout your dad's life. So we don't want to talk just about Bob. What about you, Brian? What sort of learnings or failures have happened within your life that have shaped you to where you are?
Oh, well, gosh, I've had lots of that. First off, that movie, thank you. I actually wasn't part of it. I was interviewed for it, but that was a project that my stepmother did and my younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
So it was fun, taking part in it, but that was their project.
Well, tell them I loved it. I thought it was really good.
I will. Sometimes our biggest lessons are through adversity, and I've had many things happen to me that were not great. Here's the big thing I learned, and I learned it watching Dad. None of us are immune from adversity. Bad things will happen. Bad things happen to good people. Here's the deal. How do we respond to it? How do we react to these things? What do we think about when the bad things happen? Are we focused on the negative and the bad, and we just then start bringing more of that? Or do we stay focused on what is good in our life and how can I move forward? I've had a lot of bad things happen. I've had financial things bad happen. I've had relationship bad things happen. I think a lot of us have. But here's the deal. I don't dwell on it. I don't harbor on it. I don't let that occupy my headspace, because if I do, I will attract more of it. The big thing I learned, certainly from my father, and I learned it because of Earl Nightingale, who my father went and worked with in the 60s. Earl Nightingale in the 1960s, he had a great record called The Strangest Secret. And I remember as a young boy driving around with Dad in the car, holding a portable record player, playing that record. He was programming his mind and mine without me knowing it at the time by listening to that all the time. And the strangest secret is simply this: we become what we think about. If we let the bad times affect us and that's all we focus on, man, we're going to bring on more bad times. But if we don't let the bad times take over here and we stay focused on what we want and what's good in the world, the adversities, the bad things, they're not going to cut as deep and they won't last as long. So I'm not going to share the bad things that have happened in my life, but yes, I've had terrible things happen in my life. I don't focus on them. I don't dwell on them, because what good is that going to do? It's part of my past. I let the past be the past. The only thing I have the ability to change is the right here and right now. How do I show up right now? Like, I'm here with you, Adrian, and all I'm thinking about is how can I up level whatever I have to say to help you and your audience. That's it. If we live in the present moment and do the best we can right now, that bad stuff is not going to cut so deep. And man, we will start bringing more good into our life, and we'll have fewer bad times. But as I said, none of us are immune from adversity, but we do have control over how we respond to it, how we think about it.
Awesome. Thank you. It's very, very true. Yeah. It's the conditioning, or not the condition. I don't really like that word conditioning, but it's the programming of yourself to respond to something instead of using your first reaction, because the first reaction is generally negative.
Well, and quite frankly, it is conditioning. It is conditioned. We're all conditioned, good or bad, a little bit of both, but it's what do we give more energy to?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned The Strangest Secret. I had it on my nightstand, and my mom and dad stayed over last week, and well, we were my wife and I were at a party, and with Pat actually. There was a big party on, and my mom started reading the book. Now my mom is in her 70s, and the next day when we came home, she started saying to me, she says, that book that you have, that little book you have beside your bed, I was reading it last night, and there's a lot of truth in it, It's like, really, is there? Yeah. And she goes, when he talks about, success and, a woman who chooses to be a mother because that's what she wants to be, and that's a success. She goes, that's really a different way of looking at it. I said, okay. I said, can I borrow the book? Of course you can. Bring it home with you. And then I noticed when she left, the book was still on the nightstand. So I went on Amazon and I ordered one, and I bought it and I delivered it to her, so that she could read it, and that my dad could read it also. My dad is 83, Yeah, 83. He suffered from cancer in the last sort of 12 months. And that's had a huge sort of impact on their life,
Yep.
and what they do. But thankfully, we've gotten through to the other side of it now, and we got my dad to come away on holidays, which was the first time that they had traveled in about 5 or 6 years. So maybe a little bit more of the stranger secret dripping in will help.
It'll
You
never
never know.
hurt, that's for sure.
It
Yeah,
never hurt for sure.
love to hear that.
So talk about success, and success meaning different things to different people. For you, Brian, what does success ultimately mean for you?
Ultimately, to me, success means that I'm living the life I choose to live. That's success. Earl Nightingale had a great definition for success. He says it's the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. And that means just this: you're progressively working towards an ideal, something that you want, something that you would love to have in your life. Success to me and success to somebody else could be two completely different things. But if I'm working towards something and I'm doing something every day to get there, even if it's the little things, I'm a success. That's it. Am I showing up as the best version of me every day? Am I doing something creative, something impactful every day? If I'm doing that, I'm a success. And I think we have to own that and live in that. Too often we're comparing ourselves to others, and that's a mistake. That's a mistake. I think, when we start comparing ourselves to other people and what they have, we diminish who we are. And that's not a good place to be. Everybody's on their own trip. They're on their own journey. And if we just realize this is my journey and I'm going to show up as the best way I can and live from that place, man, I'm a success. And that's it. That's it. I think if we can look at life that way, we would all be doing better.
Yeah, we have a saying in Ireland that's called "keeping up with the Joneses." And I don't know if you have something similar where you are, but it's all about keeping up with the person down the road who has the new car and the big house and the fancy holidays, whatever it is. And I couldn't agree with you more. We're all on our own journey. We're all on our own path. We're at different stages on our journey. So why would I compare me to you or you to me, etc., etc.?
Theodore Roosevelt, he was a president of the United States, I don't know, early 1900s, I think. He had a great quote. He says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." When we start comparing ourselves to others, that can steal our joy. We're on our own journey. Just accept that, acknowledge it. We are where we are because of the way we've been thinking. We are going to be where we're going to be because of the way we think. And start to focus on what you do want and where you want to go. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Who cares?
Yeah, and you're the star of your own movie, as your dad says.
Exactly.
The future, Brian, because I'm just conscious of time. We're coming up on the hour, and you've been incredibly generous with your time today, so thank you. But as we draw to an end, what is the future for Brian Proctor? And I know I've heard about Proctor's principles, but I don't know too much about it. So what is the future for you?
Well, the future for me is just kind of keeping this message out there. I run a coaching program that I open up usually 2 times a year. It's not open all the time. It's Proctor's Principles. You can find that at brianproctor.com. And my mission is to help other people live a better life, to help people start to see what's possible for me. What am I capable of? And that's what I like to do. I'm writing another book. Just really keeping the message, that my father taught all of his life out there in my own unique way. And it's been a lot of fun. We've had several hundred people now through Proctor's Principles. And I've been watching people literally alter their lives. And that is, to me, Adrian, is probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever experienced. Seeing people bet on themselves, just showing them to believe in themselves a little bit more and to step out and do something with it. And that's been my mission. And that's what I've been doing. Never thought I'd be doing this. but I got to tell you, I'm loving it. I am absolutely loving it. I've met some spectacular people. If I wasn't doing this, I wouldn't have met you.
Yeah,
So,
true.
I look at all the people this is opening me up to, and it's a beautiful thing. So my future is just more of this, and I'm just going to keep building it in a better way.
Continue spreading the message.
Yeah.
So your first book was My Father Knew the Secret, is that correct? And then the second one is 12 Easy Steps to Change Your Life.
Yeah.
And there's a third book coming.
So I'm in the midst of writing a third book right now. It's due to the publisher in about 2 months.
Wow. No
And
pressure.
no pressure. Yeah. The title, I got the title from one of my father's statements. He said this often from the stage. So the name of the book is Quit Screwing Around. This is your life. And that's it. Most people are just screwing around. They're just living from day to day. They're not thinking about what can I make my life. So it's going to be all around that.
Cool. I thought for a second it was going to be, because I heard Corey's favorite tagline earlier on about do the work. Yeah.
That might have to come into the next book for sure. Yes. Well, that's funny you say that, or that you notice that. It's yeah. You know what? I'm very fortunate. I got remarried later in life, and I have just been with the most spectacular woman, Corey, who you mentioned. And Corey and I get to work together, and it's been an absolute joy. We balance each other out in really, really good ways. And so it's been a real pleasure for me.
For it, sort of as the last thing, let's say, because I'm familiar with the story about how you used, let's say, the starburst to attract Corey to you, and anybody who might think that, because we talk, so we haven't really talked about it, but the law of attraction is something that I talk about, and vibrations and all those sort of things.
Yep.
Quite often, I'm a big believer in it, but there's always the skeptic out there.
Yeah.
Could you give maybe a condensed version of how you and Corey got together in order to explain it?
Yeah, that's easy. The whole law of attraction piece, some people are big believers, others thinks it's a bunch of nonsense. Here's the deal. All the law of attraction is what we talked about, the strangest secret. You bring about what you think about. Most people are just thinking about what's not working, so they're attracting more of what's not working. The law of attraction works just as simply as that, whatever you're giving energy to. And here's the thing. I was in my mid-50s, in and out of relationships, never had a lot of luck. And Dad had this exercise. He always talked about, one of the big questions in seminars was, I'm looking for that ideal partner. And, it's so funny. I had never done this. I'd heard him talk about it all the time. I thought, maybe it's time for me to do this. So I did this. And what he said was, in the middle of the page, you take a piece of paper, in the middle of the page, you write out your ideal partner. You just put your ideal partner. And then you put little starburst, little lines out from it, and all the qualities of that perfect person, that person you want in your life. Maybe how they look, how they act, how they treat people, their self-image stuff, whatever. Do they have money, or it doesn't matter, they don't? Do they have kids? Doesn't matter, they don't? Whatever, all kinds of things. Just write the qualities of what you like. I'll tell you what that does. It gets you crystal clear on what you're looking for. And I discovered that I was never crystal clear on the kind of relationship I wanted. And the law of attraction will work that way for anything. That starburst exercise, you could use it for your ideal client. You could use it for your ideal business, or anything at all, and get clear on all the qualities that you're looking for. Clarity is the key to all of this. Talk about the law of attraction. When you're clear on something, that's when you'll attract it. Most people are walking through life with this fuzzy image of what they want. So that exercise brings clarity. Well, so I thought it's time for me to do this. So I did it. And then what I did was I took that whole starburst and I put it into a Word document. And I just wrote out the ideal woman that I was looking for. And every morning I would open up that document and I would read it. And sometimes I'd add to it, and other times I'd take something out that maybe wasn't as important any longer. And I got so crystal clear on the type of woman that I wanted. I'd go on a date. I'd know instantly if this woman even came close to fitting the description. I went on a lot of one and only dates. And it didn't frustrate me because I was clear. And the interesting thing is I keep a gratitude journal. Just a little journal that you write all the good stuff in. And I started writing in the gratitude journal as well. I'm so grateful that this perfect woman is coming into my life. And I just pictured it. And little did I know, I would meet Corey at the seminars. She was working for the same company as myself. And we would go on morning walks. And I thought, man, this woman's really something. And never really gave it thought because we worked together. And I thought, that's kind of off limits when you're working with people. And anyways, it ended up it wasn't. And the more I realized Corey was exactly what I'd written down, like exactly what I'd written down. And it just came to be. So, I was attracting somebody that was already right there and I didn't see it. But then I saw it because I came clear on what I was looking for. Clarity, boy, oh boy, that's the gold nugget in all of that.
Yeah, I say again. I was reading the chapter. I love that, Brian. The clarity, because I was reading Think and Grow Rich, the chapter on desire. When he talks about the step one is fixing your mind the exact amount of money that you're looking for. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then I remember your dad at one stage saying, people always say they want lots of money. Well, what's lots of? Yeah.
What's lots? Yeah. To somebody living on the street, $10 would be lots of money. It's relative to what?
Yeah. I'm going to. I firmly believe, me personally, I could chat all day because I'm soaking up all of the great wisdom that you're sending my direction at the minute, Brian, and I thank you very, very much for it. But we'll have to come to a close. I always ask all of my guests for a book recommendation. Obviously, we have your two books, as a recommendation. What else would you sort of advise people would be a good? Because we talked about study, and that studying is a huge part of elevating yourself. So what other book would you recommend?
Well, I'll give you a few books. Certainly, the books that I've written, I think you'll enjoy, and I would hope that you'll go and find those. You can find those on brianproctor.com or on Amazon. Another one you mentioned earlier, Think and Grow Rich. I had not read that book since I was a teenager. My father was the one who always read it. He always talked about it from the stage. I thought, why do I need to read this book? I'm hearing it every day from my father. That's a book my wife and I have started reading again, and it's been really, really good. So that would be one. Another one I've got right here. This would be my last recommendation. This is a new book, or relatively new. It's called The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. And I am here to tell you, Adrian, this is such an interesting book. Rick Rubin is an interesting guy. He's a music producer. He's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. You'd never know it if you looked at him. One of the most interesting guys. And this is the gist of it. It's certainly, it's a whole big book. There's all kinds of things, but I really resonate with this guy. He says, if we build out and do things for ourselves, we will have an audience. There's a lot of influencers out there. There's a lot of people trying to sell their business and everything else, and they're trying to sell it to everybody. We have to recognize that we're not going to appeal to everybody. So rather than trying to appeal to everybody, this man teaches, why don't you appeal to yourself? When he produced music for groups and singers and things, he produced it in a way that he really liked it. And he knew if he really liked it, there'd be other people that would really like it. And it's such a powerful message. It's a message of quit trying to please everybody and do what's right for you. And when you do that, when you come from that heart-centered place, you will appeal to the kind of people that you want to appeal to. And it's a great book, really, really good book.
I love it. I've made a note of it. That'll get added to my bookshelf. Well,
there you go.
Get added to my reading list first, and then the bookshelf. And I love that. That's all about being authentic, isn't it? It's like being true to yourself first. Yeah. Brian, I just want to say a huge thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. I know that the listeners are going to get so much out of what you have shared today. I just want to say a huge thanks. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Adrian. It has been great being here with you, and I've really enjoyed this conversation as well. So thank you.
Thanks a million, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, you too.
Cheers.